There's a particular sound a Lamborghini makes when it rips through a fresh pasture. It's not the sexy growl you hear in the commercials. I'm telling you now, it's closer to 1,000 blenders chewing on gravel while a cow screams in protest. That was the soundtrack to my Tuesday. I stood in the doorway of my old barn, one hand on a rusted shovel, just watching as two women in a gleaming white Lamborghini Urus barreled across my land like they'd bought it at auction. The dust curled up behind them in thick, hot spirals. My cow scattered. One of my hens took off like her tail was on fire, and I actually heard the snap of a fence post under the back tire. But did they slow down? Nope. If anything, I think they sped up, laughing with their heads out the window like they'd conquered Everest. Never mind the fact they were plowing through someone else's life. Those two, Susan and Carol, were identical twins in attitude, if not in looks. I'd call them the Entitlement Express, 2 engines, 0 brakes. I first met them about a month back, early Sunday, while I was mending a stretch of wire at the edge of my property. Suddenly, the ground starts thumping, and over the ridge comes that blinding white lumbo, spitting gravel and slicing through my pasture like it's nothing but a golf course shortcut. I flagged them down, waving both arms in the air. To their credit, they did stop. Susan nearly ran over a goat trying to brake. "You ladies lost?" I asked, walking up. Carol, dripping rhinestones and attitude, just smirked and said, "Nope. GPS brought us here, shortcut to the highway." I pointed at the big, hand-painted sign that read private property. Susan, in her neon pink tank and matching phone case, took a picture of me and cackled, "Look, Carol, Farmer John's mad." And just like that, they were off again, tires shrieking, leaving behind a trail of laughter, dust, and busted pride. Now, you might think it was a one-time city folk getting lost incident. I did too. But then it happened again, and again. Suddenly, every couple of days, especially late afternoons, the whole house would start shaking to the beat of their bass, and here they'd come, barreling through my back fence, scaring the animals, sometimes even bringing friends in a convertible behind them, honking like they were in Mardi Gras. They didn't care about the land, the animals, or, honestly, any boundaries at all. I tried being polite. Left notes taped to the posts. Private property. Do not enter. They disappeared in a day. Next week, put up a chain. Cut in half. After that, I called the county, left voicemails, even cornered Deputy Marks at the diner while he dunked fries in his milkshake. "Trespassing's hard to prove," he shrugged. "You'd need footage or a witness." "I'm the witness," I argued. "You know how it is," he said. "Helpless, gated community types think the world's their backyard." So that was it. Me versus the twins. They only got bolder. One morning I wake up to a rut as deep as my forearm through my soybean patch. Tire tracks everywhere, supposed to be a good harvest next month. Now it looks like a monster truck rally gone wrong. The cherry on top? My niece sends me a TikTok video the next day. There they are, Susan and Carol, laughing their heads off, music blasting, captioned, "Shortcut Queens, don't stop for no cow." The comments? "Y'all are icons. Country roads? More like runways." My farm was now a punchline, my life a prop for their followers, and something in me just snapped that I paid attention when they came, what they wore, how they always took the same route. Susan in neon, Carol in leopard print, always in full glam. Their lumbo, not a scratch, not a speck of dirt, gleamed like a snowdrift in July. Would be a real shame, I thought, if something happened to it. Not revenge, exactly, just natural consequences. Plant poison ivy. Don't expect roses, you know what I mean? I started eyeing the terrain, looking at the way the field dipped, got marshy after rain, right where they love to cross. One night, after sunset, I took my old ATV and a load of supplies, sprinklers, hoses, a couple bags of clay, stuff from the hardware store, and built a trap. I called it the welcome mat. It looked just like the rest of the field, but underneath, it was a slick bog, just waiting. I tested it with a hay bale, sank like a stone. Then I waited. 4 days later, Just as the sun was turning everything gold, I heard that familiar bass. Here they came, Susan's arms flailing out the window, Carol grinning behind the wheel. They didn't see me standing by the fence, just another background prop in their show. They crested the hill, headed right for the trap. I leaned on my post, thumb on the trigger for the hidden sprinklers. 30 yards, 20. I hit the button. Nothing at first. Then the ground hissed as water soaked the clay underneath, turning it to soup. They hit it at full speed. The Lumbo glided like it always did, until suddenly it didn't. The front tires dipped, the back wheels spun, mud and manure shot into the air, and the whole car started to sink, slow, humiliating, like the earth was swallowing their pride bite by bite. Susan tried to bail, stepped straight into the muck and face-planted. Carol tried to crawl out the window, slipped, landed in a fresh patch of cow manure I'd thrown in for good measure. Their friends, parked nearby, whipped out their phones, cackling. "Oh my God, Susan, you look like a chocolate-dipped marshmallow," someone screamed. TikTok Live, instant karma. I just stood there, arms folded, not saying a word. Carol screamed, "You did this." I raised an eyebrow. "You mean build a pasture?" Susan sloshed toward me, threatening to sue, calling me a psycho hillbilly. "You're welcome to try and tow it out," I shrugged. Last tractor needed a crane. Then I pulled my phone out, started recording. "You said I needed proof. Deputy Marks. Here's your trespassing footage, destruction of property, and threats." The twins lost it. Susan lunged, slipped again, landed hard. That's when the tow truck rolled up, driver sipping coffee, clearly enjoying the show. "Lady stuck?" he yelled, grinning. "Not without a waiver. This ain't a road." By now, the mud was drying on their white designer SUV. Their pride had sunk lower than the axles, and half the county was watching. The next morning, silence. No bass, no shrieking, just the sound of cicadas and a gentle breeze. By noon, the video had gone viral. Over 3 million views. Someone even put a slow-mo replay with dramatic violin music. I didn't make a dime, but the satisfaction? Let me tell you, there's nothing quite like it. Folks started stopping by to shake my hand. Neighbors dropped off beer. Even old Harold next door laughed so hard he nearly pulled something. But, of course, it wasn't over. 2 days later, I get served. Susan and Carol suing me for property damage, emotional distress, and defamation. The language in the letter was so over the top I nearly choked laughing. Psychological warfare, malicious intent, even blurry screenshots of them caked in mud, scowling like raccoons. But I had everything: footage, emails, voicemails, witness statements, even their own TikTok. I called my buddy Vic, the lawyer. He read the complaint and just howled. "Let him try," he said. We countersued for trespassing, property destruction, endangerment, and harassment. A week later, lawsuit dropped. Their lawyer must have realized it was a losing game. The video kept spreading. Late-night shows made jokes about the Lumbo that learned humility. My little farm page blew up overnight. Sponsors offered boots, hoses. A podcast invited me to talk about rural justice. I said no to the miniseries, though. I'm just a guy with a fence, not a celebrity. But the world finally saw what I saw. 2 women who thought they were untouchable, brought down by a little mud and a lot of bad decisions. Susan and Carol? Haven't seen the Urus since. Months later, ran into them at the grocery store. No makeup, no bling, just 2 women in giant sunglasses pushing a cart, driving a dull gray Kia. Carol glanced at me, and for the first time, there was something new. Humility, maybe even respect. I nodded, then went on my way. Some stories don't need a sequel, but you better believe I keep the sprinkler system ready, just in case. My field's quiet again, animals calm, fences whole, and the only tracks in my soil are the ones that belong. So, what do you think, folks? Is it justice or just good old-fashioned karma? Ever had your own shortcut story? Drop it in the comments, hit like, share with a friend, and remember, don't mess with farmers.